Laba diena! A couple of weeks ago we got an opportunity to make an installation for Kaunas city. But I wouldn't like to take the credit for it because the main idea came from my friend Lucas, aka Studio Architect. So the intention was to create some structure which would represent the letter K, which stands for Kaunas, obviously. And the structure had to be quite massive to impress the passengers. So it was 4 meters by 4 meters and more than 2 meters in height. So the intention was to attract people to the structure, hand them a marker and let them write and express what the communality means to them. So since you already know the idea and the thinking behind this build, all you have to do is build it. The build starts with a very simple procedure, breaking the sheet goods. We decided to go with the traxor because the sheets were really huge, and we thought that this will be the easiest method, even though it also was a bit challenging, as you can see. And talking about material choices, we decided to go with the chipboard because it was the cheapest material we could get, and there was no need to overdo it and make it super long lasting because this whole structure had to withstand only one day, and the main performance, if you will, lasted only for 4 to 5 hours, I believe. So that's why we decided to go with this cheap yet strong enough material for this build. And the main challenge in this whole build was the size of it. We had to put it together in our workshop, and basically there was no chance we would be able to bring it out without breaking it into separate parts. So we measured the openings for the doors, elevator, and all of the constraints we had, and then we designed where to make the cuts and joints for this structure. So decide where to make the cuts on these rectangular walls. It was clear and simple, but with these odd shapes it was a bit challenging, not only because it's not straight, but also because we'll have to make a lot of reinforcement parts from the inside. So this brought a bit of a challenge, so we decided to make the cuts afterwards, once the whole structure is finished. So as you can see, my colleague is using a power plane to shape the cut to the necessary angle, because we decided not to bother and make the compound angles. We decided to make the straight cuts and shape it afterwards with the power plane. And I'm so glad we took this decision, because figuring out the angles is terribly difficult. As you can see, the structure became so massive that we had to use the ladder. And this is the view from the inside. It's a bit of a jump in the build process, because I haven't really showed you how we made those support pieces in the corners, but I guess these are self-explanatory. We made sure to use plenty of polyurethane glue on every joint, because we wanted those corners to be as rigid as possible, because after we are done we will use automotive putty to form those crisp and sharp corners, and if the corner is not rigid enough, the automotive putty will crack and fall apart. So we kept that in mind and made the structure as rigid as we could possibly get it. And the reason we chose to go with this 2-component automotive putty is just time saving. We could have gone with regular wood filler, but automotive putty not only is stronger, but the working or the curing time is so much faster. At the end, I think we used about 4 kilos of this automotive putty. So even though the number looks quite substantial, but it didn't take too long, because we just added a bit more of the accelerator, and we mixed in small batches, and the filling process was rather quick. Inevitably, time came to cut the structure into separate parts. Before doing the cuts, I made sure to climb inside and check the cut location, so I wouldn't hit any of the bracings we made from the inside. And once I was pretty sure, I made a leap and cut the structure. I wanted to make these cuts before starting painting the structure, so I would still be able to paint over the edges as well. My friend Lucas provided me with some high quality paint as well as the primer. So the first step was to prime the whole structure, because we created a lot of dust building it. So priming was really a necessity. Lucky for me, the balmy weather was already in the city, and the primer basically cured once I got around the structure, and I could start painting it right away. And the same happened with the second coat of paint, so I made it black in no time, well, a few hours. And finally the Friday came around, and that was the day when we had to put the installation in its location. So we had plenty of logistics to manage, and it was a bit of a stressful day, but it worked out really well at the end. In case you're wondering how did the crowd accept it, well, to put it shortly, there was no spot left untouched after 40 minutes or so. So yeah, there was layers upon layers of writings and paintings, and yeah, it was a great success. Anyhow, that's about it. Sincerely thank you for watching, and I hope to see you on the next one. Bye bye!